Hey everybody, how you doing? It's 11:18 in the East, and back with a talk that I wanted to do earlier Saturday, but I thought I would write the post first, and then I always almost forgot. Say, wait a minute, I didn't do at all the vlog portion of this, and so this is the vlog portion of the blog that I wrote, and the reason I wrote it is a number of people were asking for my impression of the Raiders' dramatic sales ticket performance, and I was going to develop a system dynamics model to show people what I'm thinking. I still may do that. It's just that the available software now is a little, shall we say, when it comes to connecting converters to stock and so on, wanting. And if you don't understand what I mean when I talk about connecting converters to stock, you don't understand system dynamics at all, let alone why it's important to have that ability in a modeling program. But I digress. First of all, unlike many of you, when I saw the Raiders' dramatic performance, when I saw this headline that pointed to how incredible the sales rate was, and one that I think is notable for, as they say, for the ages, right? I had an entirely other perspective on this bit of news. Raiders tickets most in demand among NFL teams following scheduling release. My first thought was, wow, Mark Davis got his revenge, because, and I say that because I was there when Davis basically did not receive the prize that he had sought. He wanted the Los Angeles market, okay? Period. That's it. That's what he wanted. He wanted the LA market. He wanted to be there. And this was basically this is what it looked like. This is how it all went down in Houston on the 12th of January of 2016. This is what Mark might say was, if you will, done to him, because he would, I think, even to this day, describe it as that, even though it's quite clear that, hey, he is going to get more than what he bargained for in a good way. This is the NFL owners meeting. This is when it was announced that the Rams were the winner of this contest in Houston, the special meeting and the vote. And here is the late Bob McNair of the Houston Texans and the commissioner right here. That's Eric Grubman shaking Sam Farmer's hand like he's been the triumphant representative for Los Angeles, basically. Even though he's NFL executive vice president for football. Anyway, let me make sure that you can hear him. The sound's not coming through, is it? And yes, there was a very rickety, how would I say, it was a rather rickety floor they were on.
Okay. Okay. It's been a long process, long day, so I apologize. I appreciate everyone's patience in allowing our process to play out. The NFL owners tonight approved the return of the Los Angeles Rams to the market, starting with the 2016 season. In 2019, they will be opening in a new stadium, which we are all as ownership very excited about. The kind of facility that's going to be built that we believe will be extraordinary
I just want to pause this for a moment and basically show you who's who and what's what, and then how to look at this. Okay, of course you know Roger Goodell, but the late Bob McNair is on our collective left, Goodell's right. On our collective right, Goodell's left is Art Rooney the third, and then a second, excuse me, and then on Mr. Rooney's and our on Mr. Rooney's left and our collective right is the owner of the San Diego Chargers, and that's Dean Spanos. Okay, now Mark Davis was supposed to be up there with him. He was off to the side, so keep that in mind as we watch.
Primarily successful in the Los Angeles market. It's more than just a stadium, it's a project, an entertainment complex that we believe will be responsive to the kind of things we need to be successful with our fans in the Los Angeles market. This agreement also allows the Chargers to relocate to Los Angeles as well. If they do not exercise that option, the Raiders would have the option also to move to Los Angeles or to move to Los Angeles with the Rams. The agreement provides that we would give $100 million to both the Chargers and to the Raiders to use to help build a facility. If a new stadium could get built,
I'm just going to put this on pause for one moment to allow Joseph Amenduras to join us. Hey, Joseph, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Have you ever seen this video before?
Which one is that? I just got on right now.
I guess you haven't then. This is from the Houston NFL owners meeting that I attended as press when it was announced that the Rams won the right to host, to come back to Los Angeles from St. Louis, as opposed to the Carson team up between the Chargers and the Raiders. This video.
Oh, yes, I think I have seen it. You know, one of the things I complained even back then was some time ago, one of the viewers was mentioning about how were they able to come. And when this happened, I remember going on the NFL website and reading their bylaws. And that's when I started complaining that by its own bylaws, the two teams that it should have been allowed to relocate were the Chargers and the Raiders, not the Rams, because the Ram was getting funding by the state to stay in St. Louis, and they would build them a new stadium. Now, this was upset me, and this is when I've come to realize that NFL is a private corporation. They could do whatever they want in terms of if they wanted to exclude that bylaw whenever they wanted to, or violate that bylaw. There's no public forum or no public repercussions, because it is a private corporation. And if they wanted to let the Rams come and not allow essentially the Raiders, because at this time it was the Raiders and the Chargers trying to get that Carson facility. And it looked like most of the NFL was on board. As we know that I can't remember his last name, but he was the owner of either Carolina or the Titans, that had one group that was supporting the Raiders and the Chargers moving to Los Angeles as opposed to the Rams.
No, that's not what happened, if I may, because I was there. What happened was that let me clear this up and I'll come back to that. What happened was that Stan Kroenke had his ducks in a row way before anybody else did, and I think out of interest, I'm glad you brought that up, because I have video of interviews with Eric Grubman, and he will explain to you. And actually, it would be neat if I took them and all lined them up, so you could actually see the evolution of his thinking. Because Eric did an okay job overall, but I assert, and I hope he hears this, I believe, and I know I could have done a lot better in handling it. But for a whole host of reasons I don't want to go into here, but what happened was that early on, the league had said, first, this was the league's initial
intent
edict as per Grubman. We don't like another developer because another developer is another mouth to feed. And what that means is if you have $1 of revenue that you need to split between the team And ideally, you want the team to hold all of that revenue. The public sector comes in with money that the team doesn't have to pay back. Okay, that's what the NFL has prized from the majority of its post-war modern stadium existence. But in an era where private capital is preferred because the public is tired of, well, taxpayers paying for stadiums for a whole host of reasons that many people know. What happened in this instance was that Stan Kroenke opted to develop a entertainment complex where the revenues from different uses, like all of which would be suffering in this pandemic environment, by the way, I might add, would come and all conspire to, from housing to hotels to retail. You would take the net operating income released the block, and all of that would be combined with money from the Rams, his own capital, to produce a block of about roughly base $3 billion of money to build the stadium. I'd say they're base because the cost went up. And so that was his idea, Stan Kroenke's, okay? He was, one thing that I come away with from the same, not really so much from the Houston NFL meeting that you're about to see, but from the Schaumburg NFL meeting, which I have also, okay, is that even back in Schaumburg in 2015 at the special meeting in August, the word of people coming out of the ballroom was that Stan Kroenke was light years ahead of Carson. He had a model, he had land, he had entitled land, and that was the consistent refrain. Land is entitled. What that means is they own it.
Uh-huh.
It's not something like they're guessing where, oh, you know, we think it's going to be here, whatever. They own the land. And
having said that, if you remember in the previous video, I know when he made that bid for the Dodgers, he didn't get the Dodgers. The Guggenheim Group did. But what ended up happening at that time, and it probably if we follow the trajectory of when he started buying the land, he started all of a sudden buying parcels of land in the Inglewood area. So I suspect that money he was going to utilize for the Dodgers, he used that to buy the parcels in Inglewood. Yeah.
That I don't know, and I'm
not speculation on my part, but yeah,
I'm not gonna comment on something I don't know about. But the NFL part I know about because I lived it, and not only that, at the Schaumburg meeting the year before, after Mark had asked me to come up with a plan for the Raiders to Oakland, that was the same meeting where I walked up to him, and the first words out of my mouth were, "Mr. Davis, I have $2 billion for you," because I carved that out of a special spreadsheet, which I still have. So, in a number of different ways, I've lived this. Kroenke was far ahead of Carson, so far ahead, and you can see what he's about to build that it captured everybody's imagination, and that again rang true. What happened with Grubman, and I mentioned that he started off saying that the developer is another mouth to feed. He basically said the reverse in a video I recorded. In other words, it's okay to have a developer later. So I'm thinking, you know, at that point, I'm thinking, you know, I don't think Eric really truly understands dollar flows in a large scale real estate development project. Okay, that was my first clue, and because if you know them, you don't say that. If you know how to change the direction of them, you don't make statements like that. So my thought was, he hasn't been running the numbers. This is more. There's something else going on. I wasn't quite certain what they were doing, but I knew that Eric was not the expert that others in the media thought he was. Okay, so having said that, here is. I'm running the video now.
Those markets, which would be our hope. The ownership, I think, personally believes that the project at Howard Park was a kind of signature project that was going to help make us successful in Los Angeles with long term. I said this morning that we've been at this for over 20 years. We felt that we needed to have the kind of stadium, the kind of project that had the vision, that had the facilities that would really bring a new kind of fan experience to the NFL and And so we're very excited about the project that's standing together. I would also say and share with you, this morning I started the meeting by saying that the relocation is a painful process. It's painful for the fans, the communities, for the teams, for the league in general. Stability is something that we've taken a great deal of pride in. And in some ways, a bittersweet moment because we were unsuccessful in being able to get the kind of facilities that we wanted to get done in their home markets. So the excitement that we feel about being able to return the Rams to Los Angeles is balanced with the disappointment that we weren't able to get it done for our fans in St. Louis, San Diego, and over. But we'll continue to try in those markets, and we'll continue to try to address those issues. I'm going to ask, because we had a lot of ownership involvement. We had extraordinary leadership from our LA committee. We had our stadium committee and our finance committee also involved. Art Mooney and Bob McNeil chair the stadium committee and finance committee. They are important members of the LA committee, and I'm going to ask them to make some comments, followed by Dino, Stan, and if Mark would like to make any comments, we're going to invite him to do so, and then we'll take your questions. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say thanks to all of our partners who went through a long process here for the last really couple of years. In particular, Stan, Dean, and Mark, whose commitment to getting something done brought us to this day, and we're excited that we got something done. It was time to get a franchise back to Los Angeles. It was time we get this situation resolved and get a program in place for the other communities to continue to work to keep their franchise. So it's been a long, difficult process, difficult decisions, but I think we came together today to make a good decision and see a great stadium be built in a great city. So appreciate all the hard work by a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to congratulate Stan and also thank Dean and Mark for their participation in this project. It's been going on for like 2 years that we've been working on this. And these projects are very large, they're very expensive, and involve a lot of people and requires a lot of cooperation and a lot of patience. And I was pleased that we were able to come up with a plan today that was satisfactory to our members, our member clubs, and that will take care of the Los Angeles market, will provide incentive for the Chargers and the Raiders to see if they can do something in their home markets by giving them some additional equity funds. And so we're quite pleased with the outcome and look forward to the development of a real NFL campus out in Los Angeles.
Thanks, Bob. I'd just like to read a statement, if I could. Mike.
I just want to stop right there real quick when Mr. McNair was talking about NFL campus, and I just want to emphasize something there with you, Joseph, and that is that the campus that they're building in LA, the NFL wanted to build in Oakland. Because I told the year before that, I told the mayor, I told Libby, I said, if you give the NFL the land, you can arrange a deal where it's kind of a sale leaseback. And because government had told me specifically they were really interested in the land because of the way land at that time, of course, now we're in a different situation, was appreciating, right? The Bay Area, Oakland had at one point the largest increase in land in any part of the world when the old Sears building was bought and became what is now the Square headquarters, the firm that owned by Twitter CEO and Square CEO Jack Dorsey, right? And I mean, Oakland was on fire, okay? So, but Libby refused to do that, even though she told me she was going to. In the back of her mind, her idea of what we should have held on to never changed. And there wasn't anybody else around who understood either tax increment financing or stadium financing or both together enough to explain to her, hey, that's what you should be doing outside of the NFL or me. And so as a result, we lost what could have been our campus. And at that time, Floyd Kephart, who some people in Oakland who were Raiders fans of Oakland worshipped for reasons I'm still not clear on. Do you know who Floyd Kephart is?
Isn't he that representative?
He was. I'll show you. This was Floyd Kephart.
Okay.
Floyd Kephart was a developer. Well, he calls himself a developer, but I never really saw exactly what he developed. To be honest, I'm just being blunt. But Floyd, and nothing personal against Floyd, but you know, it is what it is, as they say. Okay. But Floyd was part of the original group that was to build Coliseum City. And
In Oakland.
yeah, in Oakland, right. And he basically took it over from them. Here's Floyd Kephart right now. I'll remove this from screen and I'll bring in Floyd right now. You can see who he is. Floyd, one moment, please. A nice man, but like, you know, here, okay. I was skeptical of what he was able to do for reasons I'll get to right after I play this.
Hey, thanks. I prefer video to all this texting around about stuff. Floyd Kephart did meet with me. We met at the Oakland Rotary Club. We talked off camera and then we talked on camera. The link is right here. And he talked to me about his version of Coliseum City. And at the time I said, hey, I expressed support for it. And when I say support, I don't mean for it as it is. It has to have some changes. I have nothing against Floyd personally at all. Later that same day, that was June 18th of the Oakland Rotary Club at lunchtime, I met Fred again, and this is a public meeting, the Montclair, Greater Oakland Democratic Club meeting, which I, economist Roger Knoll, and Floyd were on the same panel, and Floyd said right out in public that the Raiders called him about my proposal, and he told them that they should use my proposal as a backup and dress it up as their own. He said that publicly. Ken Epstein of the Oakland Post was in the meeting. He was taking notes, but he never, for a very odd reason, wrote an article about it. And I presume it's because I was there.
And I want to say something. That just is an example of why I have no media company, because there are people in the media who didn't want it known because I'm black, and I don't care what anybody says. It boils down to that. If I had been a white guy, they would say, "Oh, so and so, yada yada yada." Okay, but they didn't want it reported. Only one person did. That Mark Davis asked me to come up with a plan. The one person that reported that happened was Mike Silver, my friend, who was right there when Mark Davis said it, and Mike put it out on Twitter. Now, journalists being journalists would, if they were really journalists, okay, have called me and said, "Hey, Zenny, talk about what Mark Davis asked you to do. Why do you believe you can do it? What is it you're going to do?" I would be happy to answer all those questions. I even had a special meeting on it at Luca's in Oakland, uptown Oakland. All right, I pulled out the stops to let people know about it, but did a single so-called journalist ask me about it? No. And when I started saying, "Hey, look, you guys have an issue with me because I'm black," they said, "Oh," but they do. And all you have to do is look at how African Americans are covered in media and what is given rise to what I do or what Morgan the Bomb does or Blavey or anything else. It's a very simple yet extremely ignorant problem of extreme ignorance in media that explains to a large degree why traditional media is going down the tubes. But I digress. Let me continue with this.
Now, because if I wasn't there, I believe you would have seen something in the Oakland Post about what Floyd said and about what Roger Knoll said. But my being there seemed to throw him off a lot. In fact, he left early, or tried to, and I said, "Ken, wait, come back because there's something you need to put in your article." And he sat down, which meant he intended to write something. Now, back to Floyd. Floyd has whatever question was posted to Floyd. I never said I was part of anyone's DNA team. So to present that as if I said that at any time is a complete lie. I never said that. One thing I did say was that Mark Davis asked me to produce a stadium proposal, which he did do. Because of the fact that I'm a media person, I have my own business, I do business with the National Football League, and Mark made this request, it makes me a business partner of the Raiders, and that is allowed within the ENA. If Floyd or any of his attorneys claims otherwise, I simply have to show that clause, and I'm happy to show it publicly, and remind them of how it's written. I asked Mark 3 times to repeat his request so that I made absolutely certain not only what I was hearing, but the people around me heard it as well. Particularly Mike Silver, my longtime friend who's now with the NFL Network, and tweeted out, I might add, tweeted out that he was a witness to Mark Davis asking me to submit a stadium plan, which I have done. I think it's completely intellectually irresponsible for Floyd to try to diminish what I've done in the way that he has, and for him to react that way means obviously I have something very good that's going on, but he could simply have taken my proposal and roped it within his and said, hey, you know what? Hey, Zenny, can we use some of your financing plan and your contacts in ours? I said, yeah, not a problem. He never did that. So I'm trying to get you to see just how parochial some of the behavior is involved in this and why this isn't going the way it should go. There's a whole litany of reasons. This is just the latest example of why there are some really ridiculous reasons why this is not going well. But Floyd did not tell you the truth.
And I thought, I thought that was Floyd Gephardt. Wait, hold on a second. So I thought for sure that was the Floyd Gephardt. This is Gephardt. There's 2. Yeah, ask me. Go ahead. We were going to ask.
No, I was going to add something. When you mentioned about why they were giving you such a hard time, I think part of that is that you have an education behind you and you know what you're talking about. And I think a lot of people in these positions don't have a well-rounded education, in my opinion, and they're intimidated by someone who's like yourself, who has this information to give them and knowledge, and they're intimidated by that because they have a higher position in terms of the position that they're holding, in terms of whether it be with the Gephardt company or in other companies. And then they see you come along and they're frightened by that. Amongst the other issues you just mentioned, being a person of color.
Yeah, here's what
I think. Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. What's sad is that the people who have practiced that call themselves journalists. If you're a journalist, you dig in, and regardless of where it leads you, and you find out what's happening. So I would have welcomed someone to ask me about the plan, how it worked. They could have called Piper Jaffray investment bankers, who were really jonesing to be a part of this thing, and the mayor wasn't calling. So I also hold out to this day some blame to Libby, who I love, but facts are facts. She should have handled it in a way that was completely different than she did. I don't want to go far down that pipe because I finally found the right video to show. Here's Floyd. And if I can expand this, here's Mr. Gephardt right here.
Floyd Gephardt, you did a great presentation on Coliseum City, and I'm proud to say I'm solidly behind you.
Good, thank you. I appreciate it.
And
note, hold on, so I want to note this, okay, folks. I had nothing personally against Floyd Gephardt. I like Floyd a lot. There were a couple of things that he did that I didn't think the city should be involved in, and specifically, and I told Libby this when I was advising Libby. I said, Libby, if you give him the 200 to 400 million he seeks, he's going to use part of that to buy the Raiders. You would then be skewered for using taxpayer dollars to help make an individual a billionaire. Okay. And that's precisely what was about to head. And the reason why, and I'm here, but I'll let Floyd talk here.
Hey, folks, we're all just trying to do the right thing for Oakland. That's it. And thank you very much for your work. And also, you said that tomorrow, no public money, and we figured out a way to.
No, I didn't say no public money. I said,
okay.
I said
Right.
and no money coming from the existing general fund.
Okay. For the NFL brethren out there, we have the NFL owners meeting coming up August 11th, which I'll be at. Do you think we'll have something there for the Raiders, or?
Oh yeah, I think that the Raiders will have something to say. I don't know what that will be because the information of them will go in next week, and they're going to start looking at it and negotiating from that point.
And I want to clarify something. You said that we wouldn't see anything until 2020 in terms of a stadium. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
2020.
It takes a minimum of 32 months to build a stadium.
Right.
And so if you look at what the permitting time is and all of that, you would get into the ground in 2017 and probably come out in the end of 2019 or something like that. So to be safe, you have to save the opening of the 2020 season.
Are we talking about stadiums for Raiders, A's, and Warriors, or?
Well, I mean, we're trying to keep all three teams. The A's will stay at the Coliseum until they terminate the lease.
Right.
And we're reserving land in the event they want a ballpark. The Warriors obviously are riding on a great high, right? I mean,
they are. Hey, look at this, right?
as Oakland should be.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that they'll give some consideration to what could take place on the East Bay.
Well, I want to thank you for your hard work, sir. Thanks very much. Support this man, folks.
Thanks.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, see, like I said, I really like him. You know, he's a Floyd Kephart is a likable guy, no question about it. And so let's go back to Mark and what happened with Mark there, and we'll pick up the pace before we. But
he's getting a special player, obviously, but I think an even unique, neat, awesome young man. He's got talent, skills. He's got ball skills. I think.
Excuse me for that, folks, but he does have ball skills. From what I understand, that was an NFL draft.
It sounded like Al Davis, was it?
No, that was far from Al Davis.
The voice sounded kind of had that certain dialect feel to it. That's why I thought it was.
No, that was not Mr. Davis at all. Let me add in to the screen. I had it for us to watch, and then I'll get to the comments that are being offered up here. And here we go. This is about taking us back to where we were. Okay, and that's where we were. Yeah. So let's take it up from where we were left off.
Goal from the start of this process was to create the options necessary to safeguard the future of the Chargers franchise while respecting the will of my fellow NFL owners. Today, we achieved this goal with a compromise reached by the NFL ownership. The Chargers have been approved to relocate to Los Angeles at the Inwood location at any time in the next year. In addition, in assistance in the event there is a potential solution that can be placed before voters in San Diego, I will be working over the next several weeks to explore these options that we have now created for ourselves to determine the best path forward for the Chargers. Thank you.
Well, this is not a win for the Raiders today, but at the same time, I'm really happy for Stan, Grunke, and the Rams going to Inglewood. I want to congratulate the mayor of Inglewood, Mayor Butts. He's a good friend of mine, and we'll see where the Raider Nation ends up here. We'll be working really hard to find us a home, and that's what we're looking for. And so for our fans and everything else, don't feel bad. We'll get it right. All right. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
So note, he did not say, Joseph. He didn't say we're going to build a stadium in Oakland.
Yeah.
He said we're going to find a home. And that, in retrospect, well, that was my first clue that he didn't want to stay in Oakland. Actually, it wasn't my first clue because prior to that, that was 2016. The year before, I told the mayor that he was working behind our back, and she didn't believe me, and that led to the video that I made at the NFL owners meeting where I asked him why he was working behind the mayor's back, and he admitted that he was. And then he went out to the fan base, which included Dr. Death, Ray Perez, and Lupo, and others, and said that he was doing everything he could to retain the Raiders, when in point of fact, he had already laid the groundwork to go to Las Vegas. And I think Leland Tracy, who was a viewer on Facebook, was saying, "Oh, get over it. The Oakland's had all this time to build a stadium." But I have to say this. On October 9th of 2011, Mr. Davis, Mark Davis, not his father passed away the previous day, had already made comments about moving to Los Angeles. So it was in his head, almost as they say on the street from jump, to get out of Oakland. And I'm not saying Oakland did itself any favors, because the elected officials had too much power over the project. And what Ignacio De La Fuente built, and I'm going to have Ignacio on the phone on the show this week, when he became president of the city council in '96, he also laid the groundwork for the restructuring of the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority to make it overly political. Okay, because he said this had to do all with the Raiders bond issue going south, the city and the county having to pay $10 million each, and he made the comment, Ignacio did, it's quote, our money now. All right. And that set the tone for an extremely political process, which more than once had the city and the county butting heads. And so, yeah, not knowing who to turn to would drive anybody in business crazy. But in the sports business, it was particularly so. But the Raiders, on top of that, didn't exactly seem to know what they wanted in terms of a stadium, because they could be dragged in so many different directions. Unlike the Cowboys or Kroenke, who built his own stadium, you have so many examples of NFL owners, organizations who built their own stadiums without the involvement of another billionaire like Sheldon Adelson, or the public like the state of Nevada and Clark County, and they came in later. Okay, they came in different areas, but the Raiders have not done that. The Raiders have sort of sat back like they're on the throne and said, "We want this, I want that. Cook, where's my Hassenpfeffer? I want this," right? And
it's an old way of doing business.
Yeah, but the whole point, and it got them what they wanted in this instance, because they found somebody in Las Vegas that, from Harry Reid, the great senator, retired, all the way down to would-be and wannabe power brokers, all of these folks fell in line. I mean, going all the way back to when I first covered CES, the one person I always wanted to meet was the person I finally did get a chance to meet, and that was Stephen Hill, who was the governor's representative for economic development. Now he is over the Las Vegas Stadium Authority and the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. Steve is a great man in economic development. So I've always had high praise for him, and have remained in that position through all this, because he directed a grand alignment of politicians and power players that you need to get an effort of the magnitude of bringing an NFL organization from one city to another done. He did it. The only time there were mix-ups, frankly speaking, were, the Raiders and issues that were created by Mark Davis and Mark Bedane regarding the lease and with Sheldon Adelson, which I still think was kind of a trick to get them the NFL votes they needed. Because I'm telling you, if Adelson had remained in place all the way up to the vote, they would have lost. If they won, they maybe would have won by one vote, but not even Jerry could have gotten over the finish line because of the whole gambling issue. But the minute they were out, the minute it looked like Adelson was out, it was okay. And I'm not saying that Mr. Adelson's points were legitimate. They were. But it could very well have been that the Raiders engineered it knowing they were going to get rid of him on that basis, or thinking maybe it would be a controversy, and they would win anyway. In other words, they probably figured we're going to win either way. If we don't win, if we don't have him, we get the vote, right? But then if he stays in and we don't get the vote, at least we have him with a possibility of another way. Whatever their real thinking was, I don't believe they intended. I don't believe that they intended to ride with him all the way to the NFL vote. I think they knew that they weren't going to win if they had him involved directly. What say you?
Well, I think I do agree with that, and I think I've always brought this up is that, as we know, the Adelson family owns the Review Journal, and I think if somehow if there wasn't some kind of compromise between Mark Davis and Adelson, you would see hit piece after hit piece against the Raiders in the Review Journal, and what you find now is the opposite.
Right, but funny you say that, because those hit pieces did come right after the 26th of February of 2017, when Adelson, in his own publication, said, look, we're out of this deal.
Mm-hmm.
4 months, all you got from the Review Journal regarding the Raiders was bad press.
But then it switched.
Right, and I still don't know. It was definitely behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what precipitated that. But it did switch, because it was all over town, as they say in Vegas, that if Adelson wanted the deal cut off, he could have cut it off like that. No problem. And there's a reason why it's still going to this day. There's a reason why it was still being built, even though you had COVID-19 sickness after sickness after sickness, and probably have more. I haven't checked today. I wouldn't be surprised if you have, within another week, a few more illnesses, okay? But they refuse to stop. Whereas, hey, look, other projects have stopped. And now at the end of the month, they're going to reopen, which I think is dangerous. But
if you have, I did even those pictures of the Henderson site where you have the workers not wearing face masks. I'd be able to pull that up.
I'll do that another time. I meant to.
Okay.
Because I was behind. I wanted to do a show about the fact that the Raiders had that really Mark got his revenge, and I wanted people to see that video that I just showed you with Mark talking. In fact, let's see if we can go back to that and finish the rest of it here. Here's the layout. That's Cronky.
I told everyone in the room today that, this has been multi-years in the making, and we've spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time on the Los Angeles committee for a number of years, and it's a difficult market. It's a difficult place to permit a stadium and build something that we would be proud of. I think we worked hard. We got a little bit lucky, and we had a lot of good people help us. And first of all, my partners in the league office, just outstanding. They really serve to inspire me and keep me going. It is a difficult process, and as Roger said, it is bittersweet. We understand the emotions involved for our fans, and it's not easy to do these things. They are purposefully made hard. But we're here today. We made a decision and worked long and hard at the various alternatives. When they didn't succeed, we worked this one to this point. And so we're excited, and I want to thank all my partners in the NFL. Also Mayor Butt, who is in Inglewood, who's quite excited, I'm sure. This is a big economic benefit to as some longtime leading Angelinos have told me. They said, I don't know if you can do this, but if you can get it done, it'll benefit a lot of people with lower incomes. Also, I've had a home in the area for 20 years, and it'll be a lot of fun for me, as I spend a lot of time out there anyway, to move forward, look forward, and build a great stadium for our league and for Los Angeles. Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up to questions. We do have the microphones. We'll begin here with Kevin Acey from San Diego.
Okay, so that was that, and I don't know if I had. I think I had one more here regarding That's mine. I don't know who all these other jokers are, but well, that's the other jokers in the NFL. Excuse me. And this was that was 4 years ago, and this was Houston. This was kind of what happened outside.
Sorry, folks, I'm not here with the Raiders fans and Chargers fans and St. Louis Rams fans too. Yeah. So the update right now is that even though the committee selected Carson of 6, the first vote went Rams, Chargers, and now there's in the middle of another second process.
This was before the announcement, folks.
But they're going to come out. And I have a feeling that we're going to go into another day. And the reason I say that is because those limos are massing up there. See that? Those limousines. See up there? Oh, yeah, right, yeah. So what do you guys think? You guys been here all day. What do you think?
We've been here for 9 hours, but it went by quick.
I was just telling the guys that I think it's pathetic that the league has us going through this in general. It's pathetic that the league could not do us right with the Raiders and help them get a new stadium so they don't have to go through the triangle, or help the San Diego Chargers get a new stadium and stop Stan Kroenke from trying to enrich himself by moving the Rams to LA.
You guys filed an injunction.
Well, I mean, we've done that before, but what happened when what's the coach owner packed them up in the middle of the night and took them on out of there. So the league does not seem to have several legal ramifications in process to stop this one.
Well, but I mean, there is the law, though. I mean, you can do that.
But of course, they circumvent it all the time. So I don't really have faith in this commissioner.
I don't have any faith in Roger Goodell either. I don't like what he's done to this league, and I think overwhelmingly the other writers that have been here, they said that hardly any of the players like Goodell. And he hasn't been doing well with the disciplinary actions. This whole process should not have been here. They should not have been.
Ultimately, in St. Louis, our situation, we have an absent owner. We call him Silent Stan. He has not spoken to the local media since he's been the owner. He has not done anything in the community. So, we're pulling for a team where the team is good to the community, but the owner is horrible.
What do you think of the Chargers?
I think from the Chargers standpoint is that they just need to get back to the table, and we have not a perfect plan, but we have something that can be hammered out to something that they can like. They just need to come back to the table, and so that's why if they don't get LA, the city needs to get its act together and realize they have time to work this out as they want it. But right now we don't know that. Sean here, among these two, won't be for the best.
Hey, thanks, guys. I'm going to go back in because it looks like these limos are massing up.
Thank you.
I'll be back. Okay, see you. So that's the latest out here, Houston, Texas, at 5:30 in the evening at the Westin Houston Memorial City. And these are the limos that are massing up, as you can see here. And going back inside, see what's going on. And that's the latest, as you can see. And we've been here for hours. And
so that was before the vote. It was a total of actually I thought it was gonna be 2 days. It was 3 days. And Bob Iger was there, and this is what I interviewed. Also, this is what Sam Farmer had to say about the return of the Rams to Los Angeles.
Farmer of the LA Times. So what do you think that 2 teams coming to LA?
It's a little surreal, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. After 21 years, this odyssey is over. We don't know about the Chargers. We certainly know about the Rams. And that really could be a transformational, as one owner said, transformational stadium project. Biggest in the league, most expensive in the history of professional sports. And it's a historic moment for Los Angeles and for the NFL.
Did you ever think you'd see the day?
I did. You know, I always told people, I think the NFL will come back when my kindergarten son is applying for college, was a junior in high school.
Close.
so it's close. I almost nailed it. But it actually, one thing that is great for the league, it creates a linear NFC West.
Right.
Almost like a mirror image of the AFC East.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so I think it also will rekindle a Rams San Francisco Los Angeles rivalry competition. I think it's going to be a positive thing for the NFL. I'm sorry for the people of St. Louis, but
I think I really, wow, that was nasty.
And the fact that Oakland gets to keep its team.
That's nice. Excuse me.
That's huge. That's huge.
Absolutely.
I mean, so I think this worked out very well. You know, it'd be interesting to see if San Diego comes up, because San Diego is a city that the NFL really likes that market. Maybe they didn't get something done in San Diego, but in the meantime, the Rams are coming back to Los Angeles.
What have you learned about America? Because you traveled a lot in this process. What did you learn? What stuck out to you most of all?
I thought it was very telling, the town hall meetings, doing the three. I did that on the 3 consecutive nights, and the 3 different personalities. And St. Louis loves its team, and there are some passionate fans there. A terrible thing to have a team ripped out of the community, just like LA felt that 21 years ago, or Southern California with the Rams. Oakland felt that, and then Oakland got the Raiders back, and so, you know, you do find these are not just conglomerates. These are public trusts. And people feel like they have an ownership in these teams, and a lot of people plan their lives around these games. And one thing, you know, we as sports writers, we're behind glass, and so there's a membrane that separates us from fans a little bit. You don't really, until you get down there in the black hole, and you don't know what it means.
Feels like it, right?
What it means to these people. And so I saw that. That was pretty remarkable.
Tell them how to find you on Twitter.
LA Times Farmer, and you can email me at sam.farmer@latimes.com. But Zenny, you're
Congratulations.
awesome.
So are you, man.
Sam's one of the good ones, man. He's a class act, and straight up class act. So, hey, there was that at the time that set things in their proper context. The Raiders are basically being told to stay in Oakland, but Mark didn't want to. Okay, so that was that. But rather than do that, Mark could have actually taken what was done in Carson, what we see in Las Vegas. He could have brought that to the Coliseum, but didn't do that. But my point here is that Mark got his revenge. The Raiders, I think, as you know as well as I do, if not better, because you're down there, the facts are better. The Raiders are a better draw than the Chargers.
Always will be.
Yeah. And so the Raiders could have stayed in Oakland, built a stadium that looked like that, Death Star, still commanded the same level of tickets. You know.
Can I add something too? Is that whether or not they're in the Bay, Oakland, or here in LA, is that, or even in Mars, right? The Raiders are a unique team. The way it infuses its culture into every city it goes in. The Rams can't do that. The Chargers can't do that. There's something special about the Raiders. When they came to LA, the city fell in love with them. To this day, right, you have loyal Raider fans that are going to dominate every time the Raiders come to play in LA. We dominated in the preseason game. They took over the Coliseum, the original spot of the Raiders when they played in the LA Coliseum. Every Charger game, 95% are Raider fans. It's a culture. It's a way of life for a lot of these people. You can't bring in another team like the Chargers or the Rams. They just don't have that. For whatever reason, there was magic when the Raiders were created.
It's very simple. It's rooted in Oakland's urban mythos that the Raiders could not have been created any place else other than Oakland, because Oakland had a gigantic influx of people who look like me in 1940s that went to work in the steel mills and for Kaiser, and got into Kaiser Healthcare and built a very large concentration of black folks, largest in by percentage in California. And when the Raiders were created, and then where they took place at the Coliseum, which is in East Oakland, which was geographically the home of black culture and the Hells Angels and Black Panthers as well. Central East Oakland and Oakland and Central East and East Oakland. The Raiders are part of that. You wanted to prove that it was very easy to go to a game. It was affordable because at that time, this is something that people don't realize because a lot of people weren't alive back then. But you could go and as a person, a man, because it was sexist, unfortunately. But women did get jobs. But you could work in the General Motors plant, which is now Eastmont Mall, and make enough in Oakland to make enough to feed her family for buy her Raiders season tickets. Or you could work in heavy industry anywhere around the Bay Area. A lot of heavy industry in the Bay Area is gone. And so the Raiders were truly a blue collar working class team. And so what formed out of that, the idea that, hey, you share and share alike. You've got great barbecue, great booze, great food, nobody is better than the other person, right? We're all together in this. That's a central part of Raiders culture, and far different from, as we used to say, the wine sipping 49ers. Used to be a guy called a white wine sipper, and I think JT the Brick had a guy on who's the white wine sipper, 49ers fan. And anybody will tell you that can be birthed someplace else, even in Las Vegas. They have no idea, because a main central part that was even true in Los Angeles because of the same culture being there, but I think to a lesser extent because it's less concentrated. Oakland was highly concentrated, and
we're spread out,
right? Oakland you were highly concentrated, and if you wanted to go someplace different, all you had to do was go over to the West Bay, San Francisco. It was just a minute away. You just go down to San Leandro, or you go over through the Caldecott Tunnel to Walnut Creek. Okay, it didn't matter. The whole point is, wherever you went, you were surrounded by the fact that wasn't Oakland except where you were. Period. And the Raiders reflected that, and the players did. And you could come out in the old days, and the players would come out and meet with you, and they would, and then people would talk with the Raiderettes and everything. Everybody was accessible. That was it. And there are people to this day who want that. Unfortunately, they're not going to get that in Las Vegas because the ticket prices are different. There are people wearing black, of course, but the meaning of it will be different simply because of the economics. And that money changes everything, okay? Period, end of story. I'm going to read some of these comments. 32 Assassin says, as they got in the 70s, those tickets were a tough get if you didn't have season tickets. Only 3,000 were held out for general seats. 50,000 ticket holders, most of them families, not casinos or corps. Right. That's the thing, though. I've gotten tons of free Raider tickets from somebody like my optometrist who couldn't go, or there's always somebody in the family, right, that you knew. It wasn't this corporate thing. There wasn't a secondary ticket market like it were scalpers, right? But not like it is today. What were you going to say? Something?
No. I was agreeing.
And I'm going to go through the comments here, but it is something that people want to be a part of. And so when people wear the Raider colors, to me that's the best example of how a culture that Oakland had and has not fully appreciated because we had such a turnover in population, has been exported around the country through the Raiders. But the Raiders themselves missed that. Okay. The Raiders themselves missed that. And that's the biggest shame of all. Hey, Rocky Mountain, how you doing? I'm reading the comments here. Muhammad says everything changed when Stan threw his checkbook at Roger. He's right. LA and the surrounds are his to be shared with the NFL. Rocky Mountain says, I agree, Muhammad. Muhammad says, Carson Stadium would never compete with Stan's plan. I agree. Well, I don't know. I inclined to think that if they had won and they built something that looked like, well, it wouldn't have looked like that because it would have been a shared stadium. But I tend to think the sellout would have been even better. I don't think as many people cared about the Rams. Sorry. All right. Rocky Mountain says, no, it would have you, right? And then Young Pharaoh says, impeach Spanos. Rocky Mountain says, hey, Zinni, I'm going just on speculation. Would Al Davis want to go back to LA or go to Las Vegas? He would have wanted to stay in Oakland because he would have wanted a new stadium. He would have left Amy up to the negotiating, and Amy Trask would have gotten along very well with Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. There would have been a sisterhood built there, and they would have built that stadium. I firmly believe that to this day, because Amy would have been able to explain things to Libby, and I think have them register in a way that I couldn't. I think Amy would have been a massive asset for this whole thing.
Did Amy leave after Al Davis passed?
Yeah.
Now, which this is pure speculation on my part. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't appear that Amy had the same type of relationship with Mark, obviously, that she had with Al, because to me it was just ironic that she left as soon as Al Davis passed and the torch was passed on to Mark.
I only say it was different. I'll leave it at that. Okay.
I think you answered my question. Okay.
Rocky Mountain says, hey, Zinni, Muhammad says, with Stan and Inglewood and now Bomber, the professional landscape is going to change in the next few years. That's a great point. Young Farrell says, Chargers will be back in San Diego after a few failed years in the stadium. Yeah, the Chargers without San Diego is weird. I'm sorry. It just is weird. They should be downtown in a stadium down there, able to handle conventions and everything else. It is just weird. And Muhammad says Chargers will be a bust. I don't see them reaching their goal as a tenant. Rams will eventually force them out or sue them. Spanos will be screwed in the long run. Rocky Mountain says, hey, Muhammad, do you think Spanos or Davis will do better in the long run? Brett Phelps says, local rumors are the NFL has tossed out the idea of the Chargers coming to St. Louis if the city drops the lawsuit. Agreed, Muhammad. Taimayo Farrow to Muhammad says that he deserves it. Sans my Chargers back home. I hear Chargers could be playing in Vegas this year to COVID. Yeah, that's a possibility, because if Gavin says, hey, look, you guys can't play anywhere, they're going to be headed to Allegiant Stadium, which would be great for Vegas, I think.
And you know what? They'll be more successful playing down in Vegas because it's more of a what's the word I'm looking for? There's multiple people that are coming from all over the country to Vegas.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be more successful in Vegas than they would be in their quote unquote hometown of LA, because LA doesn't really care for the Chargers.
I think it'll help Las Vegas revive faster to have, instead of just the Raiders there, having the Rams and the Chargers and the Raiders using that facility. It'll help the Raiders. It'll help Clark County dig out of a deficit. Well, you don't want to, charge them too much, but just the tourism alone, I think if that happens, if Governor Newsom says, hey, you know what, you got a place to play in Vegas, we need to clear things up here, okay, it would be great for them. On the other hand, if we don't get the whole problem regarding the virus solved, and if we don't get the social distancing solved, it may not matter much at all, because we're not out of the woods with this thing, and it keeps mutating and finding its way into human beings in different ways that are frightening. And so we have to keep our eye on the ball of really ridding ourselves of this virus. And to that, I do offer a bit of an aside, folks. I want you to check out a mixture of cinnamon, selenium, and green tea and licorice, okay? All right, those four. Selenium, just a little bit, a drop. Green tea, cinnamon, and licorice, because those are 4 or 5 ingredients that ostensibly will actually serve as a blocker to COVID-19. And I just read about it the other day. And so I'm going to make a test mix later this week when my selenium order comes. I don't have it, but it's preventative, okay? And we need to talk more about prevention, all of us, because the number one thing we all need to do is to make sure our lives are safe so we can keep having these stupid arguments. You know what I mean? I mean, it's kind of like, what's the point? I think when people get into these, they kind of forget, hey, look, people around us dying. And it puts all this into perspective. This is the fun part of life, being able to have these these what ifs and this new technology, communications and everything, and build all this stuff and build corporations around it. But you got to be alive to do it, right? You know what I mean? So we got to find you a kidney, my friend. So, yeah. So anyway, Muhammad says Davis will fare better, even though a part of me wants them to both fail and return to Oakland and Sands respectively. One interesting thing with COVID-19, says Muhammad, is everything financially has changed. He's right about that. Rocky Mountain says, right on, I gotcha. And then he says, man, to see that the Raiders could have done that now, they're Vegas, wow, just how 5 years changed. Yep. Rocky Mountain adds, well, yeah, when I saw that video when Mark said, I'm going to find a home for the Raiders, that's what struck me. Like Mark didn't say Oakland. He said home. Yeah, that's what struck me. I was sitting there. I'm thinking.
He made up his mind at that meeting.
Yeah, he did. He was.
And you know what I think further is that I think Mark was living off his father's reputation, because hypothetically, right, let's say Al wanted to move to LA. He would have got it done because he would have squashed Spanos. But I just didn't think Mark has that certain something that Al had. And I think Al was a much more savvy businessman, and I think he would have got it done if he wanted to move to LA.
He wouldn't have wanted to move. And
no, but I'm saying hypothetically, because I think Mark already wanted to move.
No, I don't even think I can't even entertain a hypothetical. And the reason why is because he was already there. Okay. Mm-hmm. And as a guy who came to know as a friend the head of the LA County Coliseum Commission, mm-hmm. without saying too much that's wrong, I flew down there with the late Thomas Berkeley, who was the publisher of the Oakland Post when I represented Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris. All right. Let me tell you, that commission did not have it in for Davis in the right way, okay? They had it in for him in the wrong way. What he got down there politically was not what he expected. He was not treated properly. So why would anybody, there's an old saying, once bitten, twice shy, why would he want to go back to that? I'm telling you, I don't care what Mark says, I don't care what anybody says. His father would not have wanted to walk back into Los Angeles. Period. End of story. He had a better situation in Oakland, which he would have solved by dint of his relationships in Oakland. People like Don Parada, who's still alive and doing well and got involved a little bit in this situation about a year and a half ago, or any politician in the area, including Larry Reed, including the state, because he's Al Davis. Okay. It would have been different. Mark, as he told me when I met him at the NFL owners meeting in Atlanta, the spring league meeting in 2014, he said he didn't care about the past. Those were his words to me when we first met, because I was going to tell him about what I had done with the Super Bowl and how Oakland was structured and everything. He goes, I don't want to hear about the past. The only thing that Mr. Davis, that Mark and I had talked about at that meeting, other than that, was the fact that he needed $400 million, to which I blasted that out as a news. And he asked me who I thought he should back for, who was going to run for mayor. And I'm not even going to answer that question. But he did ask me, and I gave him an answer about how he should think about it politically. Okay. So there. But no, Mark did not have the political ties his father had. And Mark was still stinging, I think, from being made fun of in publications like my buddy Mike Silver, wrote an article about it. It was kind of and referred to him as Tommy Boy by others and all that stuff. And I feel sorry for Mark. That I don't, to this day, doesn't make me laugh. I feel sorry for him because the way that I personally been treated, not by him, but I mean in life, you know. And so when you find somebody that gets laughed at or anything, I tend to give pause before I do, because if you think about how he was made fun of and everything else, he is in a sense getting his revenge over people who thought he couldn't do something, and that's a powerful thing. Okay, I'm not one of them. I don't like how he's personally treated me through this because I've been critical of aspects, but I'm not critical of him as a person. And I told him that it's not, you know, he said that I said he was racist. I didn't say he was racist. I said that he did something with Reggie McKenzie. It looked like that was institutional racism. And it did. Because you don't go out and say, well, we had one of those, or you make fun of the person, not acknowledge that African Americans have had problems in society getting jobs that they're more than well qualified for, and then staying in them because of racial politics. And Mark stepped in that direction, and I pointed that out. And so a lot of well-meaning people can make mistakes, but the simple fact of the matter is that's how I called it. And to this day, that's what I believe. And when he mentioned it to me at the Lee Steinberg party, I wasn't going to stop and get into an argument with him at my friend's party. Lee Steinberg is my longtime friend. So I'm not going to take the bait and, you know, get in some shouting match with an NFL owner, let alone anybody, and look like some, you know, dude on the street at a party. Forget it. I simply said I didn't say that because technically I didn't, like the way he meant it, because he didn't hear it. He got it from somebody else. He didn't understand what I meant. But I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, this is exactly what I meant, yada, yada, yada. No, I don't like institutional racism. And the job of Zenny 62 Media as a publication is to point it out when it exists, and sexism wherever it exists. Period. End of story. So no, but it doesn't mean I don't. It doesn't mean I don't like Mark Davis. I do. Quite the contrary. Our first conversation was when I told him when Jack Del Rio was brought in as coach, and he and Mark and I wound up being the only two people sitting in the theater, and I told him my intent to raise $10 million for what is now called Zenny 62 Media. I've gotten as far as running this, building this company as a separate C Corp, ownership, getting all the, as I say, particulars out of the way, clients are happy, people working with us are happy, everything else, okay? And I've got a pitch deck out there, and one day that pitch deck will be met, and I'll be on my way. But anybody that's trying to build some, that's why I don't laugh at Mark Davis. Because on a much greater scale, he's doing what I'm doing on a smaller scale. We're building our own private Idahos, our own worlds. That's a tough thing to do, but it's even tougher when people laugh at you. But the victory is so much sweeter because of that. I will never laugh at Mark Davis. I may not like something he does, but the last thing I'll ever do is laugh at him. Ever.
So I have a question. If California decides not to allow professional sports and the Chargers and the Rams have to play at Allegiant Stadium, who determines the cost for that lease? Would it be the NFL, or would it be a combination of Statco and the NFL?
The Raiders. Raiders are Statco.
Right.
The Raiders would negotiate that with the teams, with the approval of the league owners. And there would be particulars with respect to sponsorship, I would think. Particulars regarding signage that will come into play with both the Rams and the Chargers. But it's a good question that I'll follow up on. More comments here. Corey Brown says Nevada didn't BS around. They wanted the Raiders. They stepped up and got them. Now we left the team at the altar with the NFL team. And I want to say something too. There was some BSing around in Oakland. I'll grant that. Because I was talking about Floyd Kephart earlier. A city of Oakland staffers personally informed me that Floyd Kephart did not have the financial wherewithal. He told them, this is from economic development, okay? It's from the economic development department of the city of Oakland, that he told them he had. And that was a big reason why the mayor jettisoned him. Aside from the fact that Eric Grubman himself didn't want Gephardt involved, was vocal about it, called him a bad penny. Okay? So it's very difficult, to get anything done when you've got a person involved that the league doesn't, in the presence, the league in the guise of Grubman, all right, didn't want involved. Dupree Lattimore says Oakland deserves an NFL team. Young Farrell says Chargers deserve an NFL team. Raiders SSP says I hate the move like everyone else, but they're still my team and always will be bittersweet that they left, but happy after decades and decades. They have their own stadium, but I support the players. I love the stadium. I love everything that's happened with the organization. I just don't like the way it happened, and the bad taste is difficult to solve. But I do like the fact that it's in Las Vegas, because I've always loved Las Vegas. So I got Vegas and this deal, but Las Vegas needs the help. There are a lot of great people down there that are suffering, and that leads me to reading these comments and then showing you this headline before I close out, because one of the viewers actually tipped me off to this in the comments. And Rocky Out Mountain says, I'm happy the Raiders got a stadium, even though it's a different town. And Raiders SP says, just sad that one side, Mark Davis, didn't want to wait long enough to get a deal done. I guess in Oakland is what he means. Rocky Mountain says, I'm already looking at hotel prices so I can start planning to go to my first football game next year in Vegas. And I said, welcome to everybody. And 32 Assassin says, how about the news that broke? Sisolak says they are now $700 million short on tax revenue, $714 million. Hey, NSC, how you doing? He says, Forever Oakland. Young Farrell says, as a San Diego fan, I feel for Oakland. We both got screwed due to being in California. No way Chargers stay in LA for $1 a year. Costs have tripled for SoFi from $2 to $6 billion. The Raiders says, well, Tesla will be moving to Vegas and Texas. Hennessy says, that's actually a great thing. Yeah. Hennessy says they fell in love with the logo. 32 Assassin says, and colors. And the Raiders says, ooh, Glenn. Raiders SP says, it's the my stick of the Raiders that's second to none. The Raiders says, straight from the West, Oakland is the best. Hennessy says, straight out of East Oakland, yay. I guess this is around the time I was talking about the birth of the Oakland Raiders culture. Raiders are number one. 32 Assassin says, as they got into the 70s, there were tickets were tough. I think I read that before. And then we've got Juan Ramirez is here. Juan Ramirez says, evening family, thoughts and prayers for our country to recover in all aspects. Much agreed. NEC says, Al is a true Raider. Mark is not. Raiders 32 Assassin says, I have ventured out in the public. A lot of folks are not wearing masks, pretending like nothing is going on. The Raiders says, that's the thing. No one wants to help the Raiders, so they won't do that. And 32 Assassin says, so no social distancing for the season. And Eric Young says he hates Mark Davis. The Raiders says, for my age group, wrong side of history. Raiders SP wants a Raider face mask. And Big Snow says, City of Oakland and Zinni should have put up money for stadium in Oakland. Actually, Big Smoke, we did. It was $350 million from the City of Oakland, the county. There you go, LA Raiders. So he's got
it's a booster club. Yeah, my Raiders.
That's cool though. Nonetheless, I like that, man. That's cool. That's major league cool. Can you get one online?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think they're just down into booster club members.
Oh, geez, man, they ought to sell those online. They sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, especially because this is like the original booster club when they first came to LA, and that was created.
It's upside down. It's upside down. Now, there we go. A little closer. No, turn it. No, it's. Yeah, now closer. Straight in. Yeah, there we go. Hold it up a little bit. Hold up a little bit higher. A little bit higher. There you go. Since 1982. Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Hey, hold that up again. I got an idea. I'm going to screenshot that. Hold on. That's pretty cool. One moment. All right. Screenshot this. bad boy here. Pull it back a little bit because it's still. Yeah, okay, there we go. Wait, hold it. Stop right there. All right, got it. Took the picture. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And so Raiders SP says he needs one. And but no, as far as the money, they had the money there. And what I don't like is nothing against Drew McKnight at Fortress as a friend, but this is what happened. He said toward the end of the discussion phase, it boiled down to Eric Grubman saying to him, "Hey, Las Vegas, Mark Davis wants to know if you can come up with a loan, just like what Vegas has in 750 million." And McKnight says, "Yeah, we can do that." And I said, "Drew, he's trying to see if you actually have a deal. It's a trick. Okay, stick to your grounds. If you have one deal that's going to work structurally, don't do this last minute stuff. It's a trick. In other words, I've got this here, but I'm not quite sure what I'm doing." Because then he'll say, well, they don't really have anything. But hey, look, he did it before. He didn't ask me how he should have handled it. He told me he did it, and I was like, oh. So at the time I just listened because I've been in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, did I actually just hear that? So anyway, word to everybody out there. When you're planning a stadium financing deal, do not change horses in the middle of the stream unless you ran the models and you're trying to solve a deficit problem. That's the only reason. But don't just change structure because the person on the other side doesn't understand the structure that you came up with. That's a bad thing because it shows you don't have any confidence in what you produce as a plan. Don't do that. Just saying. Again, if there's a deficit issue in your model, then you figure out the weakness in your structure and you change it. You do it with system dynamics, the modeling paradigm. All right. Or a very detailed spreadsheet, or in my case, both. All right. What else did I miss? Let's see here. Alberto Sancho says the Chargers can move to Oklahoma City and become the Oklahoma Chargers. That would make sense for OKC. Since the name and the logo match the Thunder. And he says, and Oklahoma is a football state, but usually college football, the OU Sooners and OK State Cowboys. Oklahoma City is a booming city, so an NFL team would make sense. The Raiders says pride goes before destruction. Raiders SP says, yep, you hit it on the nail on the head the way it happened. You're right, Zenny. Raiders SP says it's like breaking up with your girlfriend. Is what happened with the Raiders. And Willie Wayne says masks don't guarantee nothing. This virus is everywhere. It's got a point, but it does guarantee you don't get sneezed on by the other person. I know this because it happened yesterday. And Alberto says, nice LA Raiders mask, so classic. I'm telling you, you guys can make bank with this, man. I don't know what you guys are waiting for. Willie Rain says Raiders should move to Los Banos. Raiders SP says, Zinni, what's your thoughts on our schedule? I'd say 10-6 Raiders will finish this year. The Raiders says, what was sad was for the Niners, they give a good going away package. Raiders, nothing. Last game had to buy the Farrell, shaking my head. I have to tell you, given the reality of the coronavirus, given the fact that the intact Saints are the first team the Raiders face, which spells loss to me. Okay. I think it's going to be a long year. I think it's going to be maybe at best a 9-7 year. And the reason I say that is because of something that I said earlier this year and last year, and I stick to. You don't change your personnel structure, have this gigantic turnover in it year to year and expect to win, because you have to concern yourself with locker room continuity. Think about where we are right now. How do you get locker room continuity on a multi-screen virtual meeting board? You don't. You have to meet. This is going to cause a lot of problems and create a lot of unexpected outcomes if the season ever gets going. And that's still up in the air because, look, advertisers are not convinced that the schedule is going to even happen. Because those same advertisers themselves are running around looking at budgets cut, people being laid off, and numbers unprecedented, and they're not excited about the NFL because the government hasn't come in either case and said we're going to put in billions to turn this around. You know, there's some guy whose name I'm even going to mention who chimed in with this comment saying, you know, asking me why I wanted the government to get involved in anything. And I point out to him, and I'll say to everybody else, look, first of all, be aware of your economy and how it works, okay? Because at the moment, this guy is basically ranting with me in a comment, talking about me having worked for the government, therefore wanting the government to be involved. What, 3 weeks ago, Jerry Jones and Bob Kraft were with Mark Cuban and Roger Goodell in a meeting with the president seeking what? Bailout assistance. What is that? It's the same thing I'm talking about, okay? Government has the money to revive the economy. Hell, we built the government to do that. This is a matter of philosophy. It's a matter of fixing something, okay? Get this left, right, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative stuff out of your head. I know it's simple and it's easy for you to consume and, you know, oh, it's candy and it makes you have somebody you want to dislike and all this stuff. But you know what? Knock it off, okay? Because it's not reality. It's not the reality of people who play, who are running their own companies and trying to figure out how they're going to get you paid, their electric bill paid, and themselves paid, and their company a going concern. When you have that to worry about, the last thing you worry about is what somebody's party is, as long as they have an understanding of how they operate the economy so that you benefit and your partners benefit and your contractors and employers benefit, and that's all that matters, and that's all you should care about. That's it, period, end of story. The rest is conversation from when we're alive and all doing well, and we can argue about silly things. We're in trouble, okay? The world is in trouble. This is a world problem. So, like I said to that fellow whose name I'm not going to mention, you send another rant like that, I'm booting you, okay? End of story. You come up with something intelligent, that's cool, all right? But what you wrote was off the wall stuff, period. The Raider says, what was said established for the Raiders, Niners, they gave a good going away package. OKC says is Dallas Cowboys territory. Raiders SP is predicting 10-6. And so what are you predicting, Joseph? What say you?
Well, last April, you and I did a mock draft and we predicted what I thought the schedule was, and I hit it right. I mean, what the record would be, and I hit it right in the head. I said 7-9. This year, I'm more hopeful. I think 9-7 is right there, but I'm hopeful we go 10-6, as our previous viewer had mentioned. So I at the very least, I'm predicting 9-7, but I'm hopeful they go 10-6.
I haven't really sat down and went through schedule bit by bit. I'm more been more focused on this more than anything. And let me show you exactly what this is that I'm discussing. It's not Mr. Farmer. Let me come back here, but it is this overarching problem that needs to be resolved. And that was focused on a news report that I'm very happy I was tipped off to, because this is something that needs to be, as they say, looked at. and it's right here. Come into Nevada Governor Sisolak declares fiscal state of emergency, projects more than $741 million shortfall. And that comes from the Reno Gazette, and it goes on to say that Governor Sisolak has declared a fiscal state of emergency to help fix the financial devastation wrought by the coronavirus pandemic. Speaking on Monday, May 11th, the state was projecting a significant shortfall of $741 to $911 million in expected sales and gaming revenues from the state's long-shuttered casinos, malls, and retail stores and other non-essential businesses. In a statement, the governor said the state's main school funding account was also facing a serious shortage of cash, threatening funding for a long-promised teacher pay raise and a whole host of other
Nope, I think we lost Zenny. So he was reading the article on the Reno Gazette Journal. I'm sure he'll pop up right now. So we'll give him a minute. It looks like he lost his feed. In the meantime, I know when Zenny was talking about how in our society that we tend to make these great. Oh, there we go. We're back on.
Yeah. It was so what I was saying was I was reading this piece here where I said share a screen and about this, and that's that. And what I was explaining here was that I don't know where you heard me or left off, but basically, and thanks for filling in, Joseph. I appreciate that.
Sure. You left off with the school fund. I think you froze again.
Yeah, any account was also facing a serious and of raises and a whole host of other high-profile education reforms passed by the legislature in 2019. Monday's declaration authorizes Sisolak and state lawmakers to patch budget cracks with dollars pulled from the state's roughly $400 million rainy day fund, which now holds enough cash to cover around 1 month of the state's projected expenses, and that's it. So that puts a lot of projects in jeopardy. That's really scary. Okay, it means that once the money dries up out of the $56.8 million debt service reserve fund for the stadium bond issue, that bond issue is going to have to be restructured to avoid default because it's looking at that. That's exactly what's happening. And if that happens, if that situation happens, and it looks like it's going to happen, then it also paints quite possibly, well, it paints a scenario where the Raiders' non-relocation agreement will be broken. Because I don't know that there is anything that stops them from making the argument that, hey, due to this act of God, this happened, and therefore we can move if we wanted to. This is a very fluid situation now. And I don't think it'll happen, but I warn people, this could get weird. This could get very, very weird because of where we are. And this gets back to my issue regarding calling for federal government funding. I will say this, and I will say this again. Wake up, okay? This is about maintaining the American lifestyle. This is about maintaining what is intact. Deals, housing, what we've come to enjoy. And the government can do that by investing $9.8 trillion. Why that number? Simple equation. total number of households times the total revenue, total income from each household is approximately 5,100,000,000,000. There. The 35 million small businesses in the United States times the average income of each business comes to roughly $1.8 trillion. That's your second stimulus. That's divided into monthly packages issued over the next 6 months from starting in June for each. Your third, $3 trillion in a block grant for state and local governments and large businesses, including sports. So I mean, you could give $25 billion to 18 airlines to help them reintroduce wide-bodied 747s and Airbus A380s into the system so that you can still do social distancing and yet have the ability for people to travel to and fro in large-scale numbers, like 747, 204 passengers, Airbus A380, 416 passengers, and that's with social distancing, okay? So it can be done if we're smart about it and we do economic planning, but it takes the government. And if you don't understand the role of government, you miss economics 101. Read about it, learn it. Learn the circular model of the economy. It's classic. Learn that first. You understand the role of government. All right. What do you think? What's happening with the LA Booster Club, and what do you think about the Las Vegas move?
Well, they're all gung-ho for it. And what I see, at least with the Booster Club, there's that split in terms of that mentality of, oh, there's nothing wrong, let's just go, Vegas to have a good time. And there's the other part of that Booster Club that they're like, whoa, wait, let's hold off, let's see what happens. And I think it has to do with education or just this mentality of there's nothing wrong. And you see that in every aspect of our culture. You have a group of people that don't believe anything's wrong with our society in terms of the virus, and some people that are overly worried. And I think you see that even within our Booster Club. But yeah, for the Booster Club, they're gung-ho because you had diehards in their Booster Club would travel all the way to Oakland, but it was an expense, right? So this Las Vegas trip, a lot of these Booster Club have family members in Vegas, so they have a place to stay. So all they have to do is worry about a ticket, and it's a shorter drive. I mean, if you live in the Inland Empire, like Gorilla, he lives in an empire in California. That's a 2 or 3 hour drive at most. And so for someone like me, I'm a little further down towards LA. It's a 4 hour drive, but still, as opposed to an 8 hour drive driving up to Oakland, you're cutting your time in half, your expense in half. And for a lot of people, they'll travel and come back, and they don't even have to stay anywhere. I mean, I remember traveling to San Diego to watch the Raiders. Man, that was a blink of an eye. That was an hour and a half drive. You came back the same night. And I foresee that happening for those who don't want to stay in Vegas. You could foreseeably leave it early in the morning and come back late at night.
Yeah. No, I think it would be a great trip. There's a lot to get to between here and there. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning here. So we've been on for an hour and 38 minutes. Not bad. And hey, folks, we had a great turnout, which means talking about the Raiders in the NFL is still king. Still matters. Although this man here, pointing over here, this guy, has done a great review of Penny Dreadful. You got to check it out. It's going to be in its own playlist later tonight. Thanks a lot.
And I have a little special project coming up that I'll talk to you about with regards to Penny Dreadful once we click off, and it'll be exciting. I think everybody will enjoy it. Stay tuned for that.
And I'll read these last comments going out. Alberto Sancho says the Chargers should go to Oklahoma City. 32 Assassin says, with the damage to the Vegas economy and the country at large, football games and gambling become very frivolous expenditures for people trying to save their houses and businesses. Yep, And that's most everybody. Brandon Wiley says, hopefully they don't wait too long to negotiate the second stimulus, because I believe it's going to be really needed by the unemployed people in the country. William Rain says, print more money, to which I say, yes, yes, yes. 32 Assassin says, drive depends on traffic. And now Alberto Sancho is going to take us out with the last comment, unless somebody chimes in at the last second, and writes, the NBA conferences should go American, national, just like the NFL. The East-West conferences are outdated. And Roland Dubs chimes in with the last comment. Good night, everybody. Hey, thanks. Stick around, Joseph. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Thanks a lot.
Night.
Yeah.